Hey guys, it's Kevin again, my review for Ready or Not. And what Ready or Not is essentially about is we center on this character, Grace, and she is engaged to be married to this guy as part of this Ladomas family that is extremely wealthy and things like that, and everything seems to be going great. You know, Grace is very excited to get to know his family. That is until she basically has to be part of this family tradition where whenever someone new is introduced to this family, they have to play some kind of game. Grace doesn't really think much of it. However, she ends up picking the hide and seek card, which basically what she doesn't know is that this is not your normal game of hide and seek. This is a game in which the family is going to track her down and kill her, basically as part of this ritual, so they can try to, keep this family, basically so they can keep this family curse from happening, and that's really, and basically now Grace has to try to get away from them and hopefully survive the night, and that's really all I'm gonna say. So, Ready or Not, overall, I was very excited for this film. The second I saw the trailer, I thought this just looked so creative and fun, and it just looked unlike many other movies that we've seen like this. You know, they always say, like, it's very hard to do an original concept, but this seemed pretty original to me, and I was excited to see the way this was going to turn out. It had a really great cast behind it, and I have to say, Ready or Not very much delivered in more ways than I expected. I fucking loved this movie. This is the definition of just a really great late summer entry that is a ton of fun, but also very thrilling at the same time. And we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And easily, that's one of the best things about this film. Everyone in this cast does such a fantastic job. Everyone really is very committed to this film. But we have to talk about Samara Weaving, who I've liked in mostly everything I've seen her in, not really The Babysitter. But other than that, I think that she is a very, very talented actress. But this is easily her best performance yet. Grace is someone who, yes, she is definitely very kind. She's someone who definitely is very pure in that way. But she is a badass when she needs to be, and I love what Weaving did here. You are pretty much just as on edge with her throughout the entire movie. You very much are with her by her side. You want her to get out of this situation, and Weaving just does such a great job, not just playing that weak female character that she very much could have. This is a character that is always kind of one step ahead. I think Weaving just does such a great job here. She really does become more and more headstrong throughout the film, and also that goes with her performance. You see her just challenging herself more and more in this performance, and I really do hope she gets more work like this after this film, because I think she's a real talent for sure. Definitely a very strong performance here, and I really did love what she brought to this film. But easily the big standout for me in this entire film is Adam Brody as the character of Daniel. I thought he was fantastic, and I've seen him before in some things that I really do like him in, but this is easily one of his best performances to date. You know, while this entire family is very much focused on getting Grace, Daniel's someone who is far more conflicted, and Brody's performance really does show here. And because of his confliction, it really does show in his performance. You know, you really don't know what side you are on with this character, but he's just so endlessly compelling, and Brody just does a lot to really flesh out the layers of this guy. I think he just did a really great job here. Definitely had some of the best moments in the entire film. The relation between him and Grace is definitely very interesting. Grace sees him pretty much, the second she's introduced him, as like one of the only sane people in the family, and I thought he did some really strong work here, and overall I was very impressed by him in this film. He definitely, like I said, I think he's definitely the big standout here for sure. As far as the rest of the cast goes, everyone does a really great job. Mark O'Brien is very good as Alex. That, of course, is Grace's fiance and husband. I think he did a really great job here. Henry Czerny is so good in this role. I loved him so much here. He is easily the most relentless when it comes to making sure that that they do hunt and find Grace and things like that. I thought he did such a great job. Andie MacDowell is really great here. Really, the entire cast. I mean, even some of the supporting performances that I didn't know as much. I really did adore Nicky Guadagni, definitely really scary for sure, but I thought she did a really great job. Kristian Brun, I have to say, though, easily one of the funniest performances of the entire year. I thought he was just so relentlessly entertaining. I loved what he ended up doing here. He definitely has some of the best lines and things like that. Really, everyone, this entire family just has such great chemistry. They all work so well together. You can tell this whole cast just having a ton of fun in this role, and it very much does show here. But now I really want to get into the directing and the writing here, which the directing for this film, it's much different than you probably would expect it to be. Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, I haven't really seen anything from these guys. I know they did Devil's Due, I believe, which I heard wasn't very good at all. But I really loved their directing. I think they did a really great job. And what's great about this film is that while it is primarily a horror film, they also never take it too seriously. Like, they know this is a little bit outlandish. The fact that this family is playing this very deranged game of hide and seek and things like that. And because of that, while there is horror, there's almost just equal an amount of comedy in there. And I think these two, they blend that in seamlessly here. I mean, the horror, yes, this film can be very scary at points. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat many points throughout this film. I didn't really know what was going to happen. There's definitely a lot of really you know, creepy moments for sure, especially just being in the house itself. I mean, they do a really great job with that. But the comedy also just really works here. I mean, I was laughing I thought this film was hysterical points. It's probably one of the funniest films of this year, and way more so than I really was expecting to. I was expecting for the film to be fun, but I wasn't expecting for it to be as funny as it really is. But there's a lot of hilarious moments in this film, and I think they did a really great job with that. It can be a very difficult, you know, way to approach this, but and when constructing a film like this, that can be very hard to ride the line between, but they really do a great job, I have to say, and it really did work with the film overall. So the directing, I thought, was pretty spectacular. Same with the writing, which very much impressed me here. This could easily just have been a very generic horror film, but it really isn't that at all. Yes, it definitely has certain tropes, but there are many things that this film does subvert in that way. Grace, for example, Grace is not this meek, you know, dumb character who just makes all these stupid decisions. No, like I said, she pretty much is one step ahead of the family throughout the entire film. Once she gets an idea of, like, what they're doing, she very often will thwart their plans, and it is fantastic to watch, and that makes for a very rootable character in the way. You know, you're not rooting for her to get killed, you're actually rooting for her to take them down because she is one step ahead of them, and I think they did a really good job with that, and they give us just enough with her character, I feel like, to get us to care. You know, we get into the idea that she was in foster care her whole life, never really had a family of her own, and was really hoping that she could become a part of this family, so it does add an extra dose of tragedy in there where this family that she wanted to be a part of instead is trying to kill her, but it also makes her a really well done character because now she has to take them down in that way, and you can really see, you know, how you can really see how just badass she is, and I think they did a really great job with that overall, and I really did enjoy her character here, but again, it's the other characters that are far more complex. Something I really do love about this film is they really do a good job of diving into this entire family, why they would do something like this. The Ladomas family, yes, a lot of them are very snobby. Yes, they're not really good people, but we really do get a good idea of, like, why all of them are so involved in this and why they care so much about this. You know, for a character like, say, Henry Czerny's character, you know, his character Tony, and for someone like him, you know, this isn't just a fun game of hide and seek. Like, no, he very much believes that this curse is going to happen, and he's doing whatever he can to keep that from happening. And that makes for a really well fleshed out character because, yes, you do fear him, and you really do hate him many times throughout the film, but at the same time, you know where he's coming from. You can understand why he is so intent on going after Grace in that way, and they do a really great job with that. Or a character like, say, Daniel's wife, someone who she herself is pretty much unscathed by all of this, and I think they do a really good job with fleshing her out. But it also makes for a lot of the comedy, because the Ladomas family, you know, they're not exactly well equipped for this. They knew that there was always a possibility of this happening, they just never really thought it was going to happen because it only happens every so often. So when this actually starts to play out, they're not really well equipped for what they're doing, and that makes for a lot of hilarious moments, like I said, especially with the character of Fitch Bradley. Oh my god, this guy had me dying throughout the whole film. He is someone who really doesn't know what he's doing at all, and they're using all of these weapons as well that just aren't from this century, as they say, and a lot of them don't really know how to use them, and they do a really great job with that. There's a great scene, of course, I mean, you see in the trailer where he's literally watching a video about getting to know his crossbow and things like that, and stuff like that just makes for some great comedy, and they really do a nice job with that throughout the film. So not only do you have a family that is so focused, but they're really not good at what they're doing, and that's actually a lot of fun to watch. I mean, it sounds like it would be kind of lame in that way, but again, that's where a lot of that comedy comes from, is that they're so into what they're doing, yet they have no idea what they're doing, and it's a lot of fun to watch, and especially for characters like Emily, for example, someone who, no matter what she does, she always seems to fuck things up for them. It is absolutely just so entertaining, and I love where they end up going with that for sure. And I think just the writing in here was just so well written in that way. You really do get a good job, you really do have a good understanding of who all these family members are. And then, like I said, in the mix of all of this is really our character of Daniel, who, like I said, to me was the best character in this entire film, because while the entire family, they have their reasonings for what they're doing, Daniel is the person who is probably the most rational of them all. Like, he is very much like, what are we really doing here? Like, he thinks what they're doing is kind of ridiculous, but yet he follows them because they're still his family in that way, and he feels like he has to play along, but at the same time, you can tell that he thinks this is kind of dumb, and that they're all kind of insane for this, and he kind of does care for Grace, so he's very conflicted in that way, and I thought his relationship, particularly with, his brother, with Alex, I thought was very compelling in that way, because you really don't know what side he is on, because you do have Alex, but Alex, for a very large part of the film, is away from Grace. I'm not going to spoil why he's away from Grace, but let's just say there's not really a lot that he can do here, and I think they did a really great job with getting us to not really know where Daniel was going to end up in that way. He's kind of caught up in the middle of it all, and I thought that's why he, for me, was probably the most fleshed out character, and I really did love where he ended up going, and a lot of the characters are like that. Just these characters in general were far more fleshed out than I really was expecting. They have a much bigger reasoning for doing this than you really would have expected, especially characters like I said, Tony, or even the character of Helene, who, I mean, she's pretty much the root of all of this, why this is happening, and they just do a really great job with fleshing all these guys out, and I definitely really did enjoy that for sure. The film also does have a lot to say, though, about the rich and just how privileged they really are and the lengths that they will go to stay rich, and I think they did a really great job with that too. I mean, that makes for some really great satire, and I definitely really appreciate that. The cinematography in this film easily is some of the best of the entire year. I mean, the whole film, you feel so trapped in this house, but yet you also feel like you just want to explore every single inch of this house, because it is so huge in that way, and there are so many various rooms that Grace can go in, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. It makes for a really great setting in that way. I mean, you really don't know where she's going to find herself, where else she can hide and things like that, and it just makes for some really great stuff. But there's also just some really great shots in this one, particularly shots when you're just with Grace on her own. This one shot when she is caught in this situation, I mean, holy shit, it was so visceral, but it also is incredibly graphic. And look, obviously with a concept like this, I was expecting it to be violent, but holy shit, I mean, this film is so much more brutal than I really would expect. At points, it reminded me of like a Tarantino film, where like he will often inject violence as a way to get you to laugh. This film does something very similar in that way, and I really did love that for sure. I think some people might take issue with like how brutal it is, but that's where a lot of the comedy comes from too, so I don't really have a problem with that at all, and I love the fact that they went as dark as they did here. In fact, even though the film, like I said, is fun, I feel like this is a situation where if this were to happen, this is most likely how things would play out, and I think they did a good job with that here overall. That being said, though, even though I do love this film as much as I do, there are a couple flaws that do bog it down. One of them being that although I think the film does a good job of showing the love that Grace and Alex have for each other and how they are this really great couple, I think they really did rush this whole plot. It feels like she got married, then all of it, and then right away we're already dealing with her having to pull this card, and the suspense is there. And yes, that definitely is very well done, but I would have liked to see them flesh out a few of their interactions at first, you know, so we could kind of see how Grace wanted to be so close with this family and how this family was giving off bad vibes and things like that, or this family seems so welcoming in that way. I mean, there could have been things that they did there, and I felt that was a little bit rushed. Also, while I appreciate the fact that we do flesh out a lot of these characters, there are some that we just don't know enough about. Like, for example, Daniel's wife, she has this whole rationale for what she's doing, and she talks about how, you know what I've had to go through, and it's like, okay, but we actually don't know what she's talking about, and I wish we got a more concrete explanation of what was going on there. Most of the characters are really well fleshed out, but there were a couple that I wish we could have gotten just a little bit more from overall, just for context sake, you know? And then I will say there is a decision made towards the end of this film that at first I didn't have a problem with. And that's mainly because of where the film goes in the third act, which, holy shit, that's going to be an ending that people are going to be talking about for a very long time for sure. But that being said, the choice that this character makes upon reflection, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, there are ways you could back it up, but I feel like it would be a bit of a stretch to really justify why this character would make this choice. I like that this character makes this choice because it gets us to where it does in the ending, which is just so insane and bonkers, and I loved every minute of it. It's easily one of the funniest moments of the entire year. But at the same time, it doesn't really make a lot of sense story-wise, and I think they could have done a little bit of a better job with that. Overall, Ready or Not is pretty much everything I want it to be. This is the definition of just a really fun, but also a really terrifying and just very entertaining journey. I think definitely this is a film that a lot of people aren't going to see, unfortunately, but I really do hope it starts to get more of a fan base. I think it has a very original plot to it. The characters are very well fleshed out, especially, like I said, when it comes to Daniel. He's definitely the best character in this film for sure. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous here. There are some very eerie shots for sure. It's much funnier than you really would expect to be. It's just everything that you really could want, and I think it's the definition, it really is the last great main release of the summer for sure, and I think definitely it's one that everyone really does need to see, and I'm definitely going to give Ready or Not overall an A-. But overall, guys, in my review of Ready or Not, let me know what you guys saw this one overall. If your thoughts on it, we'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.